how would you propose to address the rapid expansion of the U.S. deficit? And we'll begin, yes, with Eric Lane.
So it's funny, I have a business degree from very good colleges in the country. We have this thing called Wall Street that seems to drive the global economy. Then when you go to ask this particular question, you run into all kinds of conflict in responses from the best economics professors in the world. Some say, since we have the biggest economy in the world and we drive everything, we can spend freely until there's no tomorrow because there's no counter option in the world other than the U.S. economy to bet on. And so that message obviously made its way to Congress. And we've run into another $1 trillion in debt because somebody thinks there's no long-term problem. On the opposite side, we have people who probably look at it from a more moral and ethical viewpoint to get to the other end of the equation, which is to say, do we have a responsibility to our own citizens, especially now in good times, to take control of our finances when, in theory, with unemployment as low as it is, we should have lots of money to maybe stash away for a darker day? Because I'm not resting assured that every day is going to be as bright as today is. That we will have challenges, whether that's through this trade war nonsense, whether it's through genuine wars in the Middle East that we seem to get roped into, or anything else in the future that would cause that kind of problem. I think that we have an obligation to show the next generation of children that we have half a clue how to manage a checkbook, and that that's important for the United States and its future. So if you take that view where I'm personally responsible for my money, I believe we should take that same view for our government, that they should be personally responsible for our money. Thank you.
As a start, we need to fix the recent tax bill that was passed. Now, reducing taxes for middle and working class Americans puts money back into the economy. Increasing wages for middle class and working Americans creates additional tax revenue. That would help. And we need to close a lot of these corporate tax loopholes because, frankly, it's welfare. It's corporate welfare. And the people need to come first. But also understanding that, if corporations want tax breaks, then they can pay their people enough that they can raise a family without being dependent on government assistance. That seems pretty simple to me. We can stop getting into unnecessary wars. It's a lot of our money, is the Department of Defense budget, and I work to streamline programs and do them faster and cheaper and find ways to manage them on smaller budgets. This is what I excel at, is finding cheaper ways to manage complicated processes. We can go after federal acquisition reform, and things like even passing a budget on time waste billions of dollars a year. These continuing resolutions, year after year, waste billions of dollars. We can, have Congress work. That would be a start to do their job, to pass a budget on time and make sense out of the federal budget, because we don't need more federal spending, we need smarter federal spending. And that is my background. We can find these savings if we go after the way that government is operating and the way that we're approaching our budget process. Not only that, but it's important to understand, and any program manager would say, that investments up front often have a very high return on investment, and that spending is not always bad.
Thank you.
So the question is, how do you propose to address the rapid expansion of the deficit? And the first thing that we need to do as Democrats is recognize that we are the party of fiscal responsibility. We are the party of fiscal responsibility, and we need to deliver that message. Bill Clinton left W a balanced budget. Every administration since World War II, the Democratic administrations have done better for the country, and the Republican administrations have done worse. Our military budget is bloated. They asked for $554 billion, which was an increase of about 10% over the former year's budget. They ended up with $700 billion. And we talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, always in the context of social programs. Right. What about the military? We can make substantial cuts in the military. And I'm strongly in favor of looking very clean to our tax structure dramatically. In the 50s, under Republican President Dwight Eisenhower, the top corporate rate, listen to this, 93%. Nobody paid that because they took their excess profits and they plowed it into their workers. They took the deduction for the wages. American middle class grew astronomically. We all did better. The economy did better. We need to reinstate a progressive tax system so that large corporations pay their fair share. And that's the way we tackle the deficit.
I think the first thing we need to do is send people to Congress who understand what a balance sheet is and understand what fiscal responsibility is. I worked inside an investment bank. I worked as a management consultant helping companies create jobs. You need folks who actually care about what a balanced budget is and looks like and the impacts on everyday Americans. Here's what we should avoid. We should avoid cutting Social Security. We should avoid cutting Medicare and Medicaid. We need to fight to protect for those things. We do need to address this deficit, we do need a new tax bill. We also do need to address DoD spending. You need folks in Congress who are going to go up against the powers that be that want to keep that DoD budget high. You need folks with credibility. There are 100 young veterans running for Congress this year across the country. Most of us are on the left. And I will tell you, we are angry and we are impatient. We were sent to Iraq and Afghanistan with no exit plans. And we came home to see Washington being ripped apart by career politicians. There was no next generation fighter jet program that was $20 billion in 20 years over budget and over time that saved any of our lives in Afghanistan. It was software, small investments. To go up against the DoD budget is going to require credibility, it's going to require a background. The other thing is, here's what you can do. Find representatives who are beholden to their donors from corporate PACs. That's why we get nothing done. And here in our district, it's pretty easy. It's a guy named Andy Harris. He's beholden to his donors in the corporate PACs, whether it's the NRA or the pharmaceutical industry. So the best thing you can do is find somebody who fits that description and vote them out. And if you really care about trimming fat from the DoD budget or bringing fiscal responsibility back to Washington, send young veterans to Congress. Thank you.
Very good. So we...